Okay, so what I plan to do in this talk is give you a little bit of background, as we are a very diverse audience, and I don't know many of you know what I do. Some of you I recognize, some I don't. And then I'll talk about the potential of big data. Being the first speaker, I have this chance. The other speakers will have to then refer to me if they want to speak about the potential. And then give you a couple of examples of where we're trying to use it for public health, or at least, forgive me if it's not all exactly perfect. We're really trying, but it's only pilot studies that we're doing. So the title, I could have taken easily the phone off. So we've done work on mobile sensing. So the phone is one example where we applied it, but you can think of devices where we started, so devices that go on people or animals. We started with animals. This is a study we've done with badgers in Oxford, and we collected data about their behavior, their sociality, and their spatial, the use of space by tagging them on the collar. The studies on the analysis are still to be published. We published the technological aspects of it. So I'm a technologist, and I mainly work with mobile, so anything that has to do with trying to instrument people in an effective way to gather data. And once we get data I deal with is very fine-grained, both temporally and spatially. So new techniques to analyze very large amounts of this data, as well as feeding back the process into what can we give back to the user out of the data analysis that we got, and how do we make sense of the data. Other data we have been dealing with is mainly data that comes from social networks. As I said, I'm interested in the geographical aspects. So this is a geographical Facebook, people telling each other where they are. And by where they are, not just the GPS location, it's also perhaps a restaurant. We've heard a lot today, talks about food, so people telling us, I'm eating in an Italian restaurant, I'm eating in a Chinese restaurant. Data that tells us a bit more about the semantic of the places people use. This is Foursquare, an example, and this is London, and all the places, the sample of places that are represented in this sort of data sets. And this is how you check in and tell people where you are. So you can imagine the potential for you of this kind of information. And you can imagine also the limits, biases, and things, and I'm happy to discuss. A more known set of data in terms of social net analysis is Twitter data, people tweeting and telling each other what they are interested in. An addition to a recent addition to Twitter about this is the fact that the tweets are often geolocalized. So you can tell things on Twitter, but you can also have a location associated to that. So Twitter information is also, you can make it public so that others can harvest that information and make sense of geographical happening, geographical surroundings. And some of my colleagues have done quite relevant work in this sense, also in terms of, I can point you to food studies on what people post and what kind of words and on what kind of areas. You can correlate data with perhaps areas related to income in areas. So the potential here is huge, but I think that this news is not such a big news for this kind of audience. Sorry, I forgot about the slides. I should talk a bit more. I'm not talking much about this. This is a kind of representation of how you can also relate what people are saying to the geographic location. So here, it looks like the topic lake and water was very evident. And so even without the map, you could realize that this is where people were on the coastline of the lake in Chicago. You can spot events, people talking about a single event. This was, I think, Wembley Stadium at a particular day. One of my students were really interested in focusing on a particular sport event, and location again. So a lot happening here. This, to me, is something that has potential implications, but I think I want to open a new page for you of what other data is coming from this sort of devices that we wear, that we really carry all the time, and it's probably less known. So these devices are very powerful, have a number of sensors, including, for example, accelerometer that tells how much your phone is really vibrating in a way. They have a microphone. We're working a lot with trying to make sense of microphone data without, with all the privacy implications. Again, we can have a complete discussion about that, and in an energy efficient fashion. But perhaps what you are interested in is my process of trying to make these applications and these devices useful to the community, and how we succeeded in a way, and what our challenges are. So we put out an application together with some psychologists in Cambridge and Renfrew in particular, which is called Emotion Sense. If you go on emotionsense.org, you can find that application. It's at the moment only Android-based, and we were extremely successful. People were interested in trying the application, and I'll tell you a bit more why we think we had such a big success. We're talking, this is the world, these dots indicate the people, the places where the application has been downloaded. We had over 40,000 installations. That means people have tried the application, maybe deleted it immediately, we don't know that. But at any point in time, we had about 3,000 active installs. So you can imagine for a social psychological study, you have all of a sudden a population that you don't know almost anything about unless you ask through the application, that has this application installed on their phones and is voluntarily participating into your study. So I'll tell you in a minute what application does, but we're talking also about self-reports in experience sampling mode of 11,000 users. And what we've analyzed until now, and only because the amount of data we have to deal with and all the, you can imagine, discrepancies and challenges, is over 100 million accelerometer samples. So samples of this sensor, this single sensor that is on these phones. What does the app do? It samples mood. We've also done studies on trying to understand mood from the microphone of the phone. However, as you can imagine, this is quite creepy and not quite perfect. Mood is something that perhaps you don't express in your voice all the time. So we went for questionnaires for that. And we used also an affect grid to understand the mood. So the user could input on this grid, perhaps in two directions, his level of mood at the moment. It was also giving us information about activity when he was entering these questionnaires. And this was, we are using it a lot for ground truth with respect to our sensor data, which is passive sensing happening on the phone without the user intervention. Why was this successful? Why did people stick to it? Which is usually, it has been a problem with us in studies in general. We were giving back some sort of grids, some sort of information to the user about how many times during the last 30 days, at different times of the day, they felt perhaps a certain mood. So different colors would tell us different time of the day, and you would have a dot saying that perhaps in a certain slot of the day, you were more of a sleepy, positive, neutral mode than you were in other parts of the day. So an initial way of giving feedback that kept the user engaged. We also were unlocking different information at different times. So you would have to continuously interact with the application to unlock it different kind of graphs. And this gamification is well known in computer science as somehow an incentive to let people learn from the application and interact with it. We had people writing to us asking if they could show their data to their consultants. Some people wrote to us and even said that there's a big movement called quantified self, people trying to make sense of their own life from data they can collect through various devices, through various systems. So we have people asking raw data as well, a number of them. I was shocked by the fact that really people were, at least some people, I know this bias, populations are different, you can't cope, but so only certain users will be able to do this, yes, you're right. But some users were ready, and we didn't even solicit them, to take whatever was given here to a doctor. So just reporting, right? this is the first findings we're working with, and I thought it would be interesting. We are correlating the results in terms of mood and happiness with their phone's movement. We heard one of the talks about activity, physical activity. It's well known in smaller studies that physical activity and happiness are highly related. What we find here is, well, this is just a graph showing that in different, we can cluster users at different levels of activity based on different accelerometer results. So people whose phones seems to be vibrating a little more than other people's phones. So this flat line here are users who don't seem to move, let's say accelerate, allow me that much. And this is a heat map using 150 users, weekdays and weekends, of the patterns of the different clusters. So second cluster, third cluster here, and picture there. And these clusters correlate amazingly well with our results of happiness questionnaire score, so this mood questionnaire that we have given to the AFRIGRI, and as well as answers. And it's an impressive result having such a large data set of people and completely uncontrolled studies. So we are, this is where we are. We haven't even touched the location data. I guess I have another 5 minutes? Yeah. Okay. So, okay, so this is probably, we're doing an MRC study on smoke cessation with the same technology, trying to tell people whenever they set up a date for smoking, we send them a set of questionnaires, and we also, whenever they say they are smoking, we geolocate the area. So we know our experts, Stephen Sutton here in Cambridge, the group knows that smoking is very related to habits and location. So you smoke in certain places, so we geolocate the places, and whenever a good date arrives, we're able to better advise users based on the information we're collecting. At the moment, it's only GPS data, but we plan to do a lot more to help there. This was a pilot study, not a big thing. And when I said we only work with mobile phones, we've also tagged people inside building to see how they're using the space. And these are two different buildings, and how different groups, here are group interaction, 3 different groups. In one building, they were interacting with each other. In another building, you could see that the building was working better at making them interact more. So you can study pattern sociability and behavior inside places. And this was just a tag, it wasn't a phone. Lots of acts. These are the people I've been working with. They're actually mostly based in Cambridge, or at least they were in Cambridge. There's a Renfrew in psychology, Stephen Sutton and Felix Newton in public health, and a bunch of my students and postdocs. So, questions? Or I've used up all my time.
Thank you very much. That was fascinating. I mean, you must get these questions all the time, but I would be interested in your answer. One is selection bias, how useful this will be for population health, and the other is causality. I mean, the direction of causality.
Right. So I think that it's a very hard question. In terms of population bias, we have studied demographics. We have a way to know the demographics, and that has helped isolating that problem. In the big study, we don't know who's enrolling in the study. We can only target groups, perhaps with advertising and things. I guess if you're looking for specific studies, you roll back to your usual issues of let's recruit the exact participants. Causality is a huge problem. Here, I should say, you have temporal granularity of the data that may be used to understand causality a little better. I guess it's this and this. Does it answer? It tries.
But you must get asked that every time. Okay, are there any other further questions? In which case, we must thank Cecilia again.